How far are you willing to go to be the best?
I hiked in 11 miles to get most of those shots.
Devin Graham, a.k.a. Devinsupertramp, is willing to swim with sharks to get the shot.
You fight to get that shot, and it has so much more meaning.
From parkour in Paris to Mario Kart mayhem, Devin wants to get you a front row seat to all the action. We sit down to talk about the grit of filmmaking. Stay tuned to the end to watch a mean grit competition where Devin tries to distract his way to victory.
Have you ever crashed this drone?
No.
Till today?
Devin, hey, thanks for being.
Glad to be here. We're finally making it happen.
We're making it happen. It's so cool because, and I've told you a little bit about this, but in 2010, my family moved to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
It was just me, my wife, and our oldest daughter. And the first thing we bought was a 55-inch flat screen TV. And it cost over $900, which is wild to me. But we love watching movies and we love watching YouTube.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're similar age, so you'll appreciate some of this technology. You know, there was no smart TVs were few and far between at that point.
Right.
And we had a laptop with an HDMI connected to the TV. And so we were just searching YouTube videos. And a lot of videos at that time were still like 720. 1080 was just becoming a thing. And we came across Devinsupertramp, and we're watching kawaii Lost World videos of just these high definition waves and mountains and then like people. And it was just so inspiring to us to see these really crystal clear videos, which is funny because now you're shooting an 8K. But I want to kind of start off by just understanding what changes have you seen over the last 15 years in what you've been doing technology-wise, as we kind of set up the conversation of the grit and grind of what you've been doing for the last 15, 16 years.
I went to film school and everything was actually film at that time. So we're talking like super old school guys. And it was really expensive, like super expensive. And people were like doing all this work to get all the money to make film. And everyone's like, if you want to be a filmmaker, you have to film and film.
Yeah.
And there was a filmmaker, Lafayette, that shot on a DSLR camera, a Canon 5D Mark II. And it just, to me, looked like film. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's something to that. So I ended up we're talking 2009-ish era. I was like, I'm just gonna get a camera, and I didn't have the money for a camera. So the company I was working for, they bought the camera and I could use the camera. We're talking like a $2,500 camera. Right. And I just started shooting stuff like on the side. But yeah, things have definitely gone from like this small resolution film to digital, and then like 360p, like low res stuff, and then 1080. And then for me, it's always been like I want to capture it in the highest quality possible, while also filming in like the best lighting, just like everything all together, because it all works together. Because you could have an incredible camera, but if you're not filming in like good lighting, it still doesn't make a difference. Right. So for me, it's always been about, I just want all my stuff to be future proof and stand the test of time. So that was kind of a big thing for me, especially earlier on. Yeah, I remember, because in your titles you used to put the camera that you were using. So it was, you know, the 5D Mark II. Yeah. I remember going with my wife to the electronics store and just looking and trying to justify in my mind, could I give up 2 months salary for this camera? Because in my mind I thought, if I could just have the camera the Devinsupertramp had, I could do the same thing. And I think a lot of people have that naivete that all it takes is like good equipment. Yeah. But it's so much more than that. And so I'm curious, you know, what have you done to kind of develop that skill? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, I looked at your early videos and it just looked like the kid who was tagging along these really cool adventures and just taking like the video of the fun adventures. And I just thought, oh, well, I could do that. But it's not that easy. So what are some things that you did to kind of develop that skill over the years? I'd say the biggest thing is honestly like constantly suffering for the craft, I guess you could say. Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's always been like getting the shot that no one else is willing to get. So like, am I willing to hike in, like the kawaii video, for example, like I hiked in 11 miles to get most of those shots. And then I put my camera gear in like a dry bag, and then I like swam across the edge with like sharks and stuff. You know, I didn't see any sharks, but it's kind of like known as like shark-infested waters. and getting this shot, like literally like a 3-4 second shot, and then hiking all the way back.
Yeah.
And then bringing all the batteries and all the camera gear. So for me, it's always been about like struggling for it. To me, it makes it worth so much more.
Yeah.
To me personally, whereas like you fight to get that shot, and it has so much more meaning. So I guess that's always been my mentality, is like work for it, fight for it. And because I'm always doing that, I'm always getting better. And like yesterday, for example, like we filmed horses. I could film this in the middle of the day, end of the day, but like let's get that sunrise morning light. So like I left at 5 a.m., meet him at 5:30 a.m., and then I still had time to set up where the light's still like at its peak. It just looks incredible.
Yeah.
And like the shots we got looked amazing. But it's like we could have shot that any time, but let's get the best visually stunning shots possible and suffer, like wake up super early, but make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that translates to so many things, and that's why I was so excited to have you on the show, because you really have to do the things that other people aren't willing to do if you want the results that you're getting.
Yep.
Like you have over 7 million subscribers over
6.5 million.
But across your other ones, right? You're over 7 million and billions of views. And I just think that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's just the fruit of hard work, and that's what I admire the most. I'm curious to know though about some of those shots that you've got. What do you think's the hardest shot that you've had to get?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, because all the shots, they have like completely different stories.
Yeah.
Like some of them is just like, for example, like my Assassin's Creed ones are kind of like pretty well known, our parkour videos.
Yeah.
And when I first started shooting one of those, I was like, we went all the way to Salt Lake City, shot it, and it was like a guy on top of a ledge, like a pretty, like kind of dangerous ledge.
Yeah.
And it was really cloudy. He's like, this has to be at sunset with like the light popping. So I was like, let's go back and shoot it again in like another week. So then we went back again, and then we shot it, but the sun ended up becoming a cloudy day like last second.
Yeah.
So I still wasn't happy with the exact same shot. So then we scheduled it like 2 weeks later, and then we got it with like the perfect lighting, and that's what the opening in the video starts with, is that shot. So it was just like going back constantly, just trying to get it. I'd say some of the hardest ones are the ones where you have the hike and all the gear. I mean, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you were carrying like, I don't know how heavy the drone case was, but it was not a comfortable case, and it was really heavy, full of batteries, and and like just it's always that.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
It's always doing something that's kind of miserable, but.
I'm going to show you some clips here of my first interaction with Devin. Well, I guess the second. We first met on just a local trail.
Yeah.
But you know, in an effort to try to meet Devin, I packed this suitcase up a massive mountain. And I kind of convinced you to go up there and was willing to help out, but I still have both emotional and physical scars from that adventure. But it was
knuckles were bleeding.
It was definitely worth it. It was so cool, and it did kind of give me a taste of the effort that you're willing to go, because this project that I helped you on, you've been doing for 15 months.
Yeah, Utah Valley. So just filming everything that happens in Utah Valley for their tourism.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could just spend a month on this, or I could spend like 15 months and just really encompass like every season, every activity, and every type of people and what everybody does. So if I'm going to do something, it's going to be all in.
Yeah. And has it always been like that?
I'd say yeah. I grew up, my dad did drywall.
Okay.
And I'd always like do drywall with them, and it was like sanding drywall where you're just like covered in like just not the funnest job, but from like working hard with my dad, and my dad was hardcore hiking too.
Oh.
So like that was definitely instilled in me as far as like that work ethic of like just you have to work hard if you want something.
Yeah. And I see that you're translating that to your own fatherhood, as I've seen your Instagram and going through slot canyons and hiking with your son, like miles.
Yeah, no, like 14 miles last week with my 5-year-old. We're getting ready to hike Temp next.
Okay.
So, and it was like when I Googled like how far should like a 5-year-old walk with Google, it said like 2 miles. So I was like, originally we started and then like, oh, he can do this. And then we just kept on going. But for me, it's like, I just feel kids are almost too lazy these days. Like, no offense, any kids that are watching, they're really lazy. But it's like, if you want something in life, if you learn to work hard when you're young, you're going to be kind of set for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if I can teach that to my kids now, they're going to be in amazing hands when they're older.
And how do you think he handle? Does he handle it well, or do you still get the whining,
No,
crying?
there's no whining.
That's awesome.
No, he's the one, like, because we did Bryce Canyon a couple months ago. My dad's like a hardcore hiker, so he went with us.
Yeah.
And like my son Atlas, we were constantly in the front, and we kept on turning back to get my dad. Dad, sorry, Dad, just throw you under the bus a little bit. But it was like he's not complaining, and it's just because we're doing that stuff constantly.
Yeah.
We're not starting with a 15-mile hike. Like we do a lot of hiking. We're always doing the bike trails, walking, running, riding bikes. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just like teaching him as much as I can and making it hard, but it's like an awesome, enjoyable experience, and he's not complaining about it at all.
Yeah, so you've set that standard, that baseline of like, oh, this is just what we naturally do. Yeah. We're going to go long distances and we're going to work hard. And do you feel like that also is exactly what you do with your teams and when creating films and stuff? Like,
yeah,
this
for better or worse, all my team, they've been on a podcast, The Filmmaker's Journey, with Tyson, who's like the guy who conducts that. And they're all sharing like their experience working with me, and they're like, it was kind of miserable. Like it's kind of like the general, they like loved it, but at the same time it was miserable. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Crazy hours. We're doing things that I didn't think was capable, but it was like, in hindsight, like hearing that, I was like, yeah, that's just what we do to get the shots.
Yeah. And I've heard you say this before, but that you'd rather put in the effort or the money to get something that you're proud of. And do you ever look at a shot or a video and think you're probably the one who appreciates it the most, knowing everything that you've done to get that shot?
Oh no, absolutely. My videos, I look at them completely, they're like my children, where I just like put so much love into it that like I just hold them on the highest pedestal. But with that said, every video I've ever done, I look at them like, what was I thinking? Like I could have done so much better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this constant love-hate relationship.
And do you ever let like views or watch time hours affect like your feelings towards it, or are those separate? That it's like, no, I no matter what, I love this video. But then it comes out and it bombs, and you're just like, okay, I hate this video. You ever had that?
It used to be any video that did really well was always my favorite videos.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like sad. Like that's just the reality of it. And then I put my heart into something, like this was one of my favorite all-time experiences I've ever had. I put it on YouTube and it bombs. And then I was like, I make a connection. Like I hate this video. I like regret making it.
Yeah.
That has now changed though. I think I don't know if mature is the right word. But I'd say within like the last 3 or 4 years, when it's harder to kind of predict what's going to happen with the video, I've just learned to accept it for what it is. And if it bombs, I'm still like stoked and happy with it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, you know, in a world where people, you know, in a world where people watch fast and forget faster, you know, how do you continue to evolve and grow and make sure that you're still relevant?
I'm always figuring that out. Yeah, the thing is with making a career on social media is you always have to change, you always have to evolve. Sometimes you have to do things you don't really want to do, because everything right now is like short, quick, or long form podcasts. It's like one or the other, but anything kind of in my world where it's like high quality content, it doesn't do great. So I've had to like repurpose all my footage and make like 10-second little clips.
Yeah.
And those are what blows up. So it's just this weird thing. Or it's like something where I don't put any time into, I put it on YouTube and then that blows up.
Right.
So it's usually not the things I put my heart into. So at the end of the day though, I'm still gonna put my heart into it, regardless if the views are there or not.
Yeah.
Just because I want to truly represent me and like, this is what I put the last 6 months of my life into, like that represents something important to me.
Right, right. And so as that kind of relates, one question I love to ask all my guests, what does grit mean to you? And how do you define that in your space?
Yeah, so when I hear grit, I think of like suffering, honestly. Like I just think of like working really hard, like you're fighting for it. So for me, it goes hand in hand, because anything that I'm really proud of with filmmaking, with my YouTube channel, is the stuff I suffered through.
Yeah.
It's the stuff like, it's like, I'm gonna fight for this. And I don't think like through that, like I don't go into a shoot saying I want to suffer. Like that's never my mentality. Like I want it to be easy. Like that's the reality of it all.
Yeah.
But then when you start doing it, it's like, okay, we did this. It looks pretty good, but let's actually add like 2 more days to make this like incredible.
Yeah.
So it's just like fighting for the art of what you love to do and create.
And have you ever had times where you've had to fight against maybe deadlines or companies that you're, you know, working for, that you've had to push back and say, hey, no, listen, we're going to take extra time and get this right?
Yeah, usually with companies, they are like, it has to come out this day.
Yeah.
So it's more of me fighting myself of like, I am so tired, I want to sleep, but I'm actually just going to edit through the night. Like we've had a lot of like that type of stuff. Or I'm going to kind of outsource a couple other people to also help with this process, just because it's not even like possible within my time frame.
Yeah.
But it usually means like multiple people have to suffer through that, like trying to get that done on time where I'm still proud of it. But I'll never release something if I'm not proud of it.
Right.
But it's also like there are deadlines. And for me, like when my career took off like the highest, I set the goal, because most filmmakers, most creators are like, I'm only going to release this when it's perfect.
Right.
I set, on my early careers of YouTube, I was like, I'm going to set a video, release a video every week, no matter what, even if it's not perfect. And that's when I saw, like, honestly, the biggest growth of my career and everything. But I feel I've kind of gone past that now, because like at this point, I'm just going to do it how I want to do it and not rush myself. But for those starting out, like when I saw the success is when I was like, every week I'm releasing a video no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if it's not like the perfect thing,
right?
Because it never is going to be perfect no matter what you're doing.
Yeah,
so.
And you're always just kind of learning on the fly, building the bus as you're moving. That's awesome. What's something that you do on a daily basis that's like a must do in order for you to feel like your day's complete?
Spend time with my family. It's probably the first one.
That's awesome.
As far as like career wise, it's really just filming every day.
Yeah.
And living every day. Like some of the best advice I ever got, like as a filmmaker in film school, was like the best filmmakers are the ones that are actually out there living, and not also the ones that are making movies 24/7.
Yeah.
It's like as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, you're about connecting with people.
Right.
So if you're out there like living, having these experiences with your family, like going on bike rides and kind of struggling through like all these different activities, you're learning through that, and then you're learning how to tell your stories to connect with other people. So that's kind of...
That's awesome. Living, I love that. So, I mean, that's going to be my new mantra, just living, live. And I think that's so true. You know, you talked about how kind of the younger generation is we're not going to say lazy, but maybe preoccupied.
Yeah.
They're maybe afraid to get out.
Distracted.
That's a good one. You know, I've had so many conversations over these last few months as I've been doing this and it seems the theme is consistent, that it's not about earning the money. It's like, it's the relationships.
Yeah.
It's the life that you're living, the finding the joy in the everyday that really matters. If you were to go back to young Devin, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, what piece of advice would you give him?
So much advice. I would just say the biggest thing is when it's hot, and you just embrace it, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come again. So like I look like times in my career, like I'm glad I took that, but there's other times where it's like I probably should have jumped on that a little bit faster, or a little bit quicker. So like the advice for me, but in hindsight, like too, like I was also neglecting everything else. So it is a weird balancing act. Balance is the other big thing, is just like jobs will always be there. They'll always come. You're not competing with anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
That's another big thing, is like thinking like, oh, I'm a filmmaker, so I have to like, this person that also wants to be a filmmaker, I'm not competing with them. I'm not competing with them for the job most of the time, right? But the reality is we're all trying to figure it out and just work together with as many people as you can, because that's when you also see like the most success, especially as a filmmaker. Is like that collaborative process is huge. And
how do you define success as a filmmaker?
Creating what you're proud of, I think for me is the big thing. It used to be views though, like, but I've learned now some of my best stuff doesn't get those type of views. That doesn't mean that the project's a failure, because sometimes I'll get like emails saying, hey, this video changed my life, and it hardly got seen at all. So for me, that's a huge success. So now it's just creating what I'm proud of and putting it out there, and also balancing like my family. I think like that to me is what determines my success now.
Do you have any videos that if you could go back and just never do it, that you'd go back and say, yeah, we're not doing that video?
Probably a lot of them, but I don't know. Like each one of them, I learned through that process, or I connected with different people. So it's like it's like, do you take away your past? Well, who knows what my past would look like if it wasn't what it was.
That's
so I'm like stoked on what I was able to create and still creating. There's been times where I've released stuff and it was like, that was a lot of suffering, and the payoff was not even close. And even now, like that's very a true thing, where I'll put in a ton of money, a ton of time. Like I did one recently, I shot it over 2 years, over all the different seasons again. It was a Mario parkour video.
Wow.
And it bombed, like 30,000 views when you spent 2 years on it. it's kind of like disheartening. But I'm like really proud of that one.
Right.
So I'm also still at peace at that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's awesome.
It's a balancing act, but it took me a while to get to that point.
Right. Right. If you were to give advice to somebody who's starting out, I mean, you've kind of given some gems already, but is there anything specific that you'd say, hey, this is what you need to do if you want to be successful in this space?
Yeah, the biggest thing is you have to be doing it every day.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a filmmaker, if you're not already doing it, you're not going to be a filmmaker. Like that's just the reality. Like if you're at school, like majoring in whatever it is, and if you're not already doing it, like on the side, then you're not going to be great at it.
Yeah.
So the best people, the people I look up to the most are the people that are doing it like around the clock.
Cool.
Always learning, always evolving, and always like experimenting with different things and learning. Like for me, it was like, I'm gonna do a horror film last year, and I don't do horror, but it's like, I'm just gonna try it, that genre, so I can learn from it. And then it ended up being like this really awesome experience. Yeah. So just learn and try as many new things as you can.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, Devin, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I have a little surprise. So I'm going to share some footage here. Take a look at this. This was when Devin and I were hiking up a mountain to get some drone footage of runners. Oh! I thought it would be fun to do a little competition. I've brought my drone. And I have a sound bite. So we'll play the sound bite that is going to kind of set the mood and the scene. And then we're going to each take a turn to fly the drone and get a 30-second shot that goes with that music. And we'll see if we can, we'll let you guys comment to decide who do you think did it better. Now, all right, Devin, so here's the soundtrack that we're flying to. Very cinematic, fun.
And we're talking 30 seconds.
Yep.
Is it one shot or it's a mix?
30 seconds, you can do a mixture of shots.
I'll edit my version.
Okay.
So who knows what you're gonna edit from. or like.
My son and I calibrated it to Fortnite. So this is up and down. So this.
I don't want to distract you from your
Okay,
time.
okay.
So how are you approaching this shot right now? What's the thought process?
The thought is like, what is?
Don't stop flying.
He's trying to distract me for sure. We're gonna put an asterisk. Oh, Devin was so distracted. It'd be a fun hiking adventure to go and find it.
For you.
Yeah, for me.
I'd be there with you.
Okay, Devin and James, let the games begin.
So who do you think won? Comment down below if you think it was Devinsupertramp or Mean Grit who got the victory today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this video, and we'll see you next time.